Perfect. I hope I have met you previously. So I am Marnie Stockman, co-founder and CEO of Lifecycle Insights. I was playing Who's Down with OPP because in 2 weeks, I'll be at the 7-figure event. We're having a pre-day event called Who's Down with SOP, which is Standard Operating Procedures. And we're in a room with Line Guard and Gradient talking all about business practices around data and best, practices, standard operating procedures around using data and providing insights. So if any of you are heading down there, I will see you there. Some other places you may have found me will be, and let me know in the chat if you cannot see my screen. I assume that you can. So I'd love some thumbs up or yeses in the chat just so I can confirm that I'm not losing my mind. I think you're looking at my screen. Okay, even better. And I love it. Okay, thank you. So perfect. So you may, since yesterday was Star Wars Day, May the 4th be with all of us. You may have met me before in Rogue One, where I was a galactic commentator as we did save the Death Star from cybersecurity concerns. You may have seen me at Jurassic Sock, where I was a park tour guide, and we did a cybersecurity tabletop exercise to save Jurassic Park. And most likely you saw me 2 weeks ago looking like this at the Robin Robbins Technology Marketing Toolkit Bootcamp. So hopefully one of those sounds familiar to you, or you've seen me out and about in the space. And we're here to help you make them a QBR they can't refuse, or give your customers the QBR they deserve, that type of thing. Most recently, even after all of those events, I was on a webinar where I was a panelist with Will from the co-founder of Match.com. And we were talking about metrics and KPIs. And he talked about that in his Monday morning meeting, the one thing they always looked at, he scribbled this on the board, which definitely is becoming something we do. And we put up, what he put up there is make money divided by less effort. So I love that phrase, or I love that notion, especially as a former math teacher. I'm all about an equation or an expression. So Lifecycle Insights is really aiming to help MSPs make money through business reviews and make them faster with less effort. So that really drove home not just the goal of any business to make money with less effort, but also what business reviews can do for managed service providers. So as we dig in and take a look at Lifecycle Insights, another phrase I always say is QBRs are like the weather. Everybody's talking about it, nobody's doing anything about it, but we decided to change that and do something about it. So our goal really is to do two things. We aim to automate the reports that should be automated to help you deliver strategy, business outcomes, risk to your clients so that they understand the technology needs to help you drive business, make them more supportable, scalable, serviceable, etc. So I'm going to show you a couple screenshots, and then we're going to dive right in because I promised a demo of the platform. I talked to many, many folks out and about at events, and doing a 25-minute demo at an event is not the same as when you get to, kind of sit and digest it all without food being passed over your head, etc. So the first thing we do is we aim to, as I said, automate some of the reports that you should be delivering at a business review. So I put up here the primary integration. So we require one of these: Manage, Autotask, Halo, Synchro, or IT Glue. We go out and grab your companies, your assets, and your contacts. In some cases, we can also grab contracts and tickets. So that provides even more value. We bring that over and we do warranty lookups on Dell, Lenovo, HP, Microsoft Surface, Cisco, Meraki, and SmartNet. We're always adding more to each of those, but I like to show kind of where we are. A lot of folks are able to kind of take a bunch of the tools that they currently use and compile them all in one in Lifecycle Insights. So if anybody has questions along the way, feel free to put them in the chat and I will answer about where we're grabbing this data. But we also, as you can see, have integrations with Microsoft 365, LineGuard, Breach Secure Now, and KnowBe4, right? So we're trying to collect the data that you're going to use to support the conversations you're going to have at a business review. And all of this pulls over to our dashboard. So you're looking at an individual client dashboard. Again, I'll dive into this live in a minute, just like to give you insights into what you're aiming for, right? So you get a dashboard, including data quality. So what we have found, I'm sure I'm not telling any secrets, is that sometimes your data coming over from your PSA needs to be cleaned up a little bit. And we're going to give you ways to do that and insights into where that data isn't necessarily clean, so that we can drive an asset report, right? You can deliver an asset list. You can actually deliver this right to your inbox or your client's inbox if you would like. You can deliver a risk assessment and really highlight for business owners where their technology is in need of improvement. A full budget forecast is insanely powerful. All of this so you can wrap this together and tie up recommendations to deliver to your clients. So that's a fast version of what we're going to dig into in the platform. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in. Right out of the gate, I mentioned that we're aiming to help you deliver the QBR your customer deserves. At the end of this, I will put a link in the chat to a sample template of all of these reports. So you're happy, you'll get the recording. You can certainly screenshot and take notes away, but we'll also give you that exact report that I'm going to kind of walk building through so that you'll have access to it. So you'll be able to get a copy of our actual assessment, etc. So we're not shy about that. We believe we should deliver value, whether you're a Lifecycle Insights partner or not. We are well aware that everything we do absolutely could be done with Excel spreadsheets, some formatting tools, some Word docs, etc. But what we have found is that that slows the process, and that MSPs have bigger fish to fry than cobbling together data from 6 different platforms to be able to deliver to business review, especially with a focus on data, consistency, and driving business outcomes. So let's dive in and take a look. Again, feel free to throw things in chat if you have them. I'll also take questions at the end. So our goal right out of the gate, we're going to plug you into your, your PSA, and we're going to throw some data on the screen. So you can see here, I've got a data quality score. Again, not a secret, doesn't always come over this way. We started someone on Monday, and I've met with him a couple of times, and he said, my score's now already at 100, right? I've done the tricks, I've gotten it where it needs to be, and now he's moving on and building his assessment. But we do give you some insights into where you might be missing data, especially if we can't do warranty lookups because it's missing a make or a serial number, for example. We have a lot of folks who get their tier 1 techs to help them clean up this data. So it's really, a quick process to get this in shape. Once we get your data cleaned up, we can deliver an asset report. If you've looked at our pricing page, and I'll go over this at the end, we do have a light version of Lifecycle Insights called Air. And it's basically a warranty lookup tool, and it's $79 a month across all of your clients. The VCIO package that I'm showing today, literally everything I show today is in the left-hand side of the pricing page. Again, I'll go over that. So all of this is included. So I'm going to take a look at the asset list. And I can download to Word, export to CSV, or I could send my clients or my own inbox this report. So you could schedule this report to be monthly. Well, I'll show you. Recurring, I can decide monthly, weekly, quarterly, or annually. And let's take a look at what they're going to get. So this is delivering to their inbox those assets that are at end of life. Maybe their warranties are expiring, their operating systems are at end of life. Any of the filtering that we can do in the platform, you can deliver in the report. So you can control the settings that you deliver right to the inbox again. So here's an overview of the report, and you can see I've got my workstations, my network equipment, etc., along with those assets that have expired, right? They're at end of life. The other day we had an MSP on a call with us, and he said, I just delivered the asset list, and one of my clients said, we clearly have we have equipment that we need to replace, and wrote a check for a project they weren't even proposing that day. They were just starting to share this data. So right out of the gate, we typically see some value add for you in being able to have this information. Some pieces about Lifecycle Insights. One feature that we have is the notion of swatching. So basically, when you're looking at any of the columns that have colored swatches, we've got stoplight reporting, where red is bad, green is good, and yellow is in the middle, and blue is where you will be missing data. So I can easily swatch away or remove the swatch colors of the operating systems, for example, that are not blue, green, or yellow. So I've got all of my operating systems that are expired. One of the things we're going to talk about in a bit is how to turn this into a recommendation. I could do that over here, but I'm going to wait until we get a little further along. But I could also take a look at maybe I just want to look at my servers and workstations. Maybe I do want to look at everything, but I want to know where my warranties are expired, but my devices are not expired. So maybe here's where I want to go out and get a manufacturer warranty, or I want to take a look at where my assets and warranties have both expired. And this is really where we need to have conversations, because this is when it's time to do an asset refresh for your clients. The same idea with swatching we do with user reporting. So I mentioned at the beginning that we integrate with Microsoft 365, Know Before, Breach Secure Now. If you have either of those as cybersecurity phishing training, we're always adding to those. So I will remove Breach Secure Now from this column and assume we're not looking at a Breach Secure Now client. But if you do have Breach Secure Now, you automatically get extra data fields along the way. One nice thing about that is our integrations don't cost anymore. So you get all of the integrations, for the same package. So if you have all of these, you can include all of them, no extra charges. So I could go look, and this is what MSPs like to do with the user report. First, let's take a look at folks who are not in ConnectWise. So they're red in ConnectWise, but green in Microsoft. So that means they exist in Microsoft, and we're not seeing them in ConnectWise if that's my PSA. If you're a Synchro shop or an Autotask shop, that's what would show up in this column. So the question is, why are they not in ConnectWise? Because are we not charging for them, and we should be? Or if we look at the columns we're getting off to the right, are they in fact licenses that folks aren't using but still exist? So I can see in this column that these folks haven't logged in for over 30 days. I have it set at 30 days to turn red, and then also have MFA disabled. So this is then a cybersecurity risk and question you need to have with the clients. So if you haven't done business reviews regularly with your clients, this is a great place to start. It doesn't look like you're coming in to sell them a project right out of the gate. It looks like you're coming to have a conversation around risk. So folks really like adding that to their conversation. I'm going to jump down just a bit to the security awareness, because if you do have Breach Secure Now or Know Before, we also have a security awareness report. So we pull over the information around their phishing fail rate, their training scores, etc. To be able to present that, again, to have that conversation of, we know that the largest threat to a business are the humans, and we need to make sure they're trained, to protect their business as much as possible. So I've talked about two pieces of data, actually three, that we're automating, right? We've got the asset list, we've got the user list, and we can pull over cybersecurity phishing training pieces. The other piece that we can grab is contracts. So for ConnectWise and Autotask, we can pull over the contracts, which in ConnectWise are agreements and additions. In Autotask are contracts and services. So we can pull those over because our goal is to help you deliver a budget forecast to your clients. On a call on Tuesday, we were talking about contracts, and one of our partners said, my brain just exploded twice on this call, because if I can deliver all of my services in a budget forecast for the next 6 months and the next 6 years to my partners, one of the things his coach always says is, budgets don't get cut, expenses get cut. So if we can budget out for our clients, then they're much more likely, first, to bring us to the table to have those higher level conversations. And second, you're just a part of the system instead of apart from the system. So there's a lot of power in bringing over your managed service contracts and agreements, et cetera. Additional power, you can add third-party contracts manually. So I could add a new one. I'll just click into the Verizon one here. We see a lot of folks adding third-party contracts around printer copier services, phone services, ISP providers. For example, if this particular client is on Verizon and they are cranky customers and I want to sell them Ring Central, if I have insights into when their contract expires and when they have to give notice, I can be ahead of that in order to have a conversation around, are you happy with your phone service? You know, maybe you want to look at the service that we support, right? It makes them more supportable for you. And maybe you get a spiff on the back end or have an agreement with a particular VoIP provider, for example. So all of those pieces that I've talked about will push to our budget forecast. So I'm going to jump into the budget forecast, and we've got a lot of power behind the budget piece. I like the spreadsheet view myself. I can create this budget. I already mentioned I could do 6 months out. I could do 6 quarters out. So you can do the budget monthly, yearly, or quarterly up to 12 periods. So 12 months, 12 years, et cetera. I haven't seen anybody do a 12-year budget before, but we have a lot of folks that deliver both a 12-month detail view, tell me every asset that's being replaced in the next 12 months. So my project manager can determine, right, how the humans that we work with are going to make that happen. And then also a 5-year budget. When you deliver a 5-year budget, then that server that's becoming due in 2 years, you're not going to blindside them with a $10,000 expense that they didn't know about. So the conversations around the budget become a matter of how and when you're going to deliver these services, as opposed to if you're going to deliver these services. So I think that's an important piece that folks really like when they're able to deliver the budget this way. It's less of a, here's a quote, here's a quote, here's a quote, here's a quote, right? Like I need a check, I need a check. It's more of, to keep your business running operationally smoothly, this is what we need to budget for this conversation. So again, in the budget, I can drill in and see every piece of this. And you'll notice that I've got the asset types, so servers, virtual servers, workstations. A lot of folks start out with servers and workstations. Like, we're going to make sure these are all up to date and then move on to other types of devices. But at the bottom, you'll see we also have contracts and subscriptions and recommendations, which I'll talk about in just a minute. But all of these pieces make up your full technology cost of ownership budget you can deliver to your clients. One of the pieces that we talk about is, you know, there are some line of business applications for clients or applications like Salesforce that are a really heavy expense. If you knew that your client had a $30,000 Salesforce bill due in April, you probably won't recommend a server refresh in April, right? You can either get ahead or lag behind that Salesforce contract. So when you get insight into their cash flow pieces, this also gives you better timing, and you can be more proactive about that instead of having to react to their response of, like, I've already got a $30,000 bill for Salesforce. I don't have anything in the budget for you right now. So any comments, questions, criticisms, complaints about this automation piece before I dive into the assessment portion of the platform? Feel free to put them in the chat. As I said, I was a high school teacher, so I know I've got to give an awkward 9 count where people can type in the chat. And I'll just click back on the dashboard, and I'll plan to keep rolling. But if I see questions pop in, I will stop back and grab them. So I like to draw a dark line in the sand here. Oh, I do have some questions. Okay, good. Fast typing. Well done. Are contracts working with Halo, or is that planned? So that is planned, not working as of yet. Do we pull PC server info from ConnectWise command? From ConnectWise, we integrate with Manage. So our ConnectWise partners use all of the ConnectWise plumbing and syncs to make sure that the assets are in the managed portion, and we can pull from there. One of the reasons we have done that is if we pulled from all of the places where the assets could live, we would have lots of duplicates. And so we aim to help you clean those up. The other piece is, we want your PSA or IT glue to be your source of truth, because that's where your engineers are doing the work, et cetera, and they wouldn't necessarily be logging into Lifecycle Insights. So we're kind of forcing you to have the data in the one place where the engineers, et cetera, will do the work as well. So hopefully that makes sense. Thank you for the questions. And If I get a date on Halo, which is on our roadmap, I will absolutely let you know in the email that I send out after the fact. In assessments, okay, so assessments are the questionnaire survey types of questions that you would ask to deliver to your clients, right? So this is not, we're not a network detector, rapid fire tools type of competitor at all. This is a lot of folks use those big reports and like scroll through it and see what they would recommend to answer a couple of questions in Lifecycle Insights. So this portion of the platform is manual. So here you can see I scrolled down to our template, our library of templates. So we offer about a dozen templates. You can import your own. We have a lot of folks leaving other platforms that bring their assessments in. We have folks that have them on spreadsheets and upload them. You can start from scratch. You can use one of ours. The most popular option is to use our default template and edit it to make it your own. So these are completely customizable. And we're going to take a look at the default assessment today. But while I'm in here, I will point out this pre-sales assessment. I mentioned our pricing structure, and it is based on the number of active clients you have in the platform. So you could select our basic package, which is free for 30 days, and you can get 5 or 25 clients in that free trial piece. So let's say you pick the 5 client package. That means we're going to do all of the automation plus offer everything else for those 5 clients. You can do assessments on everyone else. So you might have 100 clients and 5 of them you're paying for, the other 95 you can do assessments on. You might think, well, that seems crazy, right? Why would you give away assessments if I want to do it on the majority of my stack? We believe that if you do these assessments and Lifecycle Insights, that you will grow your business. And as you grow, you'll want to use more of the platform to deliver the business reviews. So a lot of folks are using Lifecycle Insights to deliver pre-sales assessments in order to be able to do that. Then the data is already in here. So when you go to do a business review, you have that comparison and you can show your clients how you've moved the needle for them. So we think that's really important. I'm going to go in and actually show you an assessment. And again, if you want to take a look at every bit of this assessment, it is in the link that I'm going to share at the end. So I'm going into the assessment, and this particular assessment I have done as a comparison assessment. So I can tell that I've given this assessment before because in the left-hand column, I've got an asterisk of where the client scored previously. So I can see how I'm moving the needle for this particular client, right? Everything again, red, yellow, green, and very customizable. I can show previous responses. So I can see that this was an acceptable risk before, moved to satisfactory, and now we're at satisfactory. I can add scoring instructions. So larger teams like to add scoring instructions, links to IT glue documentation, Hoodoo documentation, et cetera, that show how you would score these particular items, along with explanation remediation tips. So these would be, what are we going to recommend to the client and why if this is red? You can add public comments, and those will print out on the final report. So let me show you what those reports look like. Let's see if I grabbed a good assessment or if I don't have enough data in this one. Always a mystery in a demo site. Let me grab another one that has some more data in it. Let's grab this one. I'll assume Alex has done more work today in his demo site. How's that? There we go. So whether or not I read the language on this page, as a business owner that you're presenting to, they for sure can see that there's a yellow 58 and a yellow 50, right, with hardware and regulatory compliance. So right out of the gate, they understand that that's where their risk becomes. And business owners are by nature competitive, right? They're trying to grow their own business. So for sure, they'll ask, what's behind that yellow? So I can see in the hardware category, which was the first one, I've got a couple of at-risk areas and an area with needs attention. At the end of this report, after I go through all the categories, I aggregate my at-risk items and make comments as to the recommendations I want to make so that we can deliver a remediation for this particular problem. So that's the first assessment report that folks like to deliver. And the other one is really the one that folks have struggled for a long time, which is to show the return on their investment for having you as their managed service provider. So this is a comparison report. So I can see how I've moved the needle for them quarter over quarter, or a great selling tool for a prospect to say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, your technology health is at a 58% right now. So you ran, you did this, you filled out this assessment as their baseline. And then you did it a second time, but this time you did it answering if they run with your services, right? When you onboard with us, based on what we're going to rip and replace, we're automatically going to move the needle to 88%. How? Well, you can see in hardware, that was a big concern of a category, and we're going to be able to move it immediately just by moving to some of our best standards and practices. We'll still have work to do. You've got some other aging assets we need to talk about, et cetera, but you'll be able to see how we've moved the needle. So we hear a lot of folks saying that's kind of the mic drop moment when the business owner can really see what's going to change in their environment because they don't really understand all of the flux capacitor conversation, but they get moving from red to yellow to green. The power of having all of this information in one system is being able to tie those two together. So that is what the salesperson, the VCIO account manager always has to do, right? I'm talking to you about business pains, and then I'm going to come mention some Dell servers that we need to do something with. So this is where we have recommendations. So I can go into recommendations and say, all right, I'm going to take a look at this last assessment that I did. I will continue to grab incorrect assessments. There we go. Let's look at this assessment that we did where I've got 5 at-risk items. I'm going to grab a couple of them. Doesn't really matter what they say for the sake of this, right? So I'm going to grab 3 at-risk items, and I'm going to create a recommendation from this. And I'm going to say to the business owner, we're going to solve these problems that we've discussed and why they're at risk to your company by eliminating these Windows 7 machines. That's what's causing the problem. We can't patch them, right? We can't protect them anymore. We're going to create this recommendation. We can add labor, material costs. You can add recurring costs or contracts. I mention contracts because we have a lot of folks that use this to demonstrate how we could move folks to the cloud. So we're going to replace these assets with some virtual machines with licensing associated to it. So you can give, alternate options in the budget. You can, there are a lot of pieces around status where you can say, we're going to propose this and decide if the client accepts one or the other. So there's a lot of way to drive that conversation when you can show them, this is what it looks like to just rip and replace the asset. This is what it looks like to move to some cloud services, for example. So all of those recommendation pieces also move to the budget forecast. So you saw that line on the budget that said recommendations. All of the recommendations that you have turned on will move to that. So this lets you do 2 things. One, it lets you give the client a roadmap. Like, here are all the recommendations, right? We've scheduled one for 2022, one for 2023, and we have one not scheduled, right? So do we want to talk about these not scheduled projects? Are great ones to talk about at the end of the year when they've got end of year spend down money. The other piece is you can do a recommendation roadmap for all of your partners. So this is for your company. Wouldn't the project team like to know that you've already scheduled them for $100,000 worth of projects in Q3? And don't you like to know you better start not promising things in Q3 and move them to Q4? So there's a lot of power in those pieces. So if you look down the left-hand side, I've talked through most of those pieces. We're going to go through 2 more things, but if you have questions, as we go around assessments, feel free to add them in there. I'm going to click on Report Builder. And the goal of Lifecycle Insights is to help you create basically an easy button that lets you build the QBR your customer deserves that you can repeat over and over again. But we don't mandate what that looks like. Everybody's got their best practices of how they want to deliver one. We offer default settings for sure, but we don't mandate that it's got to be this way. So I have a question for the QBR. Do we pull in data from data? Ooh, that was a tongue twister for me. So auto task, yes. So if it's It's the Datto PSA, absolutely. Yep. So I can add in Report Builder, the notion is I want to stack the components that I'm interested in order to build my report. So I'm going to actually show one that I've already built, which is my favorite template, cleverly titled Marnie's favorite template. And here I have the agenda, the executive summary. I will point out that this is sorry, I'm going to answer the question in the chat. Not the PSA, but the backup services. We do not pull any of that data in. That would be something you would manually, you would give responses to based on what you saw from the reports in Datto. We don't integrate any of those pieces in there. Thanks for clarifying that one. So this is the QBR your customer deserves that I'm going to download and ship to you. So it will include the agenda, the executive summary. This is the assessment summary we were looking at earlier, along with the assessment comparison piece. We've got a couple different flavors of the budget forecast. So at this point, you can see I didn't just grab the budget forecast and go finagle it to what I want. I already have it set the way I want to look at it. So when I jump from creative designs to Get Well Medical Services, it rebuilds the budget forecast with the same settings, 5 years, etc. And I'm good to go for that client. I've added my recommendations in, so I can pull up and say, I want these 2 recommendations to display in my report. I can pull over my assets nearing warranty expiration. So you can see this looks a little different from the asset page, but we've included comments, etc. All of the other reporting, Breach Secure Now, my ticket reports. So if you've got your ticketing turned on in Manage, you can grab those over as well. And you can download this to a Word doc. Obviously, that's what I'm going to share with you. But we also have presentation mode. And for presentation mode, this basically reduces the need for you to have to develop a PowerPoint slide deck because it puts a layer over the top of the platform where you can click through and work through your presentation. The nice thing about having it this way, as opposed to in a static PowerPoint, is if in the conversation somebody says, I thought we didn't have any assets due this year, what is that workstation that's expiring? You can click in and see exactly what the workstation is. You can drill in even further and see the information about that particular asset. So there's a lot of power and flexibility in being able to use Report Builder. The last piece I'll talk about is our scheduler. So the scheduler is designed to help you segment your clients into what type of business review they have. Everybody says QBRs, nobody likes QBRs. I would stop saying it if folks would stop Googling it, right? So SBRs, TBRs, QBRs, not everybody needs them or wants them quarterly. So the goal for our scheduler is for you to plan out, is this going to be a monthly, quarterly, annually, or semi-annual client? Right? And then when I drill in, I get into the business review itself where I can collect notes. You have probably seen 3 other places in the platform, these green buttons that say add ticket. And that is the ability to create a ticket in Manage. You can see I've got a ticket for this business review. I could view it here. I could open the ticket right in Manage and work in the ticket. Or I can choose to unlink it. So best practice is when you start a business review and send that agenda off to kick off a ticket, right? And start your process. And then your follow-ups, you can create a PSA ticket from here so that this way the CSM, VCIO, owner can see right from here if all of the follow-up items have occurred. So we have heard that a lot of folks are very good at having these meetings as one-offs or ad hocs, but are not good at doing them regularly and consistently, and then struggle with follow-up sometimes. That may or may not be you, but if it is, we do have some workflow options in place to kind of help you get a consistent process time over time with that. So that is the notion of the business review page and the scheduler, how those two are tied together. So I've kind of gone through the company reports. So on the left-hand side, everything under the word company reports is for whichever company's in your drop-down picker at the time. Under MSP reports, these are across all of your companies. So I can see across all of my companies who has Microsoft licensing, which are still available, etc. We have some clients that have managed to save some folks like $600 in licenses that were hanging out there that they didn't even know about. We have asset ad hoc, which is the ability to run your asset report across all of your clients, and the data quality score, which gives you the data quality for all of your clients. So if your data quality is in the yellow, you probably don't want to do a business review until you clean it up, because you'll be missing a lot of assets. So that's missing opportunities, and it's also missing potential risk for clients. So questions about any of the pieces, any of the integrations, et cetera, that we have talked about? All right, I am pulling up the pricing page. Feel free to throw questions in if you have them. So I want to talk about what we've gone over and what the pricing page looks like. I mentioned at the very beginning, we have a light asset-only warranty lookup tool, $79 a month for unlimited customers. So that's a light option that can be standalone or added to another. It is, however, included in the VCIO package. So literally everything that I went over today is included in this package. So we've got up to 5 active customers for $75 a month, up to 25 active customers, $175 a month. Both of these packages have a free 30-day trial. We highly recommend, even if you have 450 clients, that you start small, get your data in, take a look at it, clean it up, make sure you get a process in place. And then as you get more business reviews under your belt, scale as you go. So I will throw that out there. We do have a customer success package that I didn't talk about at all today. If anybody's interested in those pieces, I'm happy to have a separate conversation, but I don't want anybody to get confused between the two. So we like to talk about this one. In this one, with the 5 active customers, you do get to select which 5 you want to work with. So we'll auto select the 5 that have the most assets, but you can choose which you want. And again, you have the ability to grab any number of clients beyond that for assessments. So in this column here, where we have VCIO active, that counts toward your subscription. You can add everyone else in assessments if you want to deliver assessments for them. So that is how that works. So I am going to do 2 things as we wrap up. The first, I'm going to put the download link to the QBR. So this is the file of the final QBR with some Post-it notes of really, ideas of what to do in each of the sections to remind you what we talked about today. And then I'm also going to pull up this slide that has my contact information. Let me make that big enough. So if you want to chat QBRs, don't sweat it at all. If you are not a life cycler and don't intend to be a life cycler, if you just want to talk through some best practices, we're always happy to chat. So I put my LinkedIn on this page. Let's see if I can, I don't think I can grab it at the same time and put it in the chat. And here's our pricing, a link to our pricing page as well. And then lastly, we do have a coupon code that I will put in the chat. That is 50% off your first 2 paying months. So if you sign up for the free trial, you could enter this coupon code anytime within that trial, and your first 2 paid months would be 50% off. There is a public roadmap. Glad you asked. Let me do this. So we are releasing the new public roadmap on Friday, tomorrow. So the roadmap that is in here right now is from last quarter, but I'll show you. We put it right in our help documentation. How about I just type roadmap? There is product roadmap. I knew it started with a P. So these are the pieces that have delivered or are delivering. So single sign-on will have the ability to force single sign-on probably over the weekend. These are the other pieces that we did in Q2, and we're delivering the next roadmap again tomorrow. So next week I'll have a different one. So you should ask me next week where we are, because I'll have 6 months out on that. But we have weekly calls with our partners. that talk about, best practices, other vendors in the space that work with us to, to deliver some value to clients, as well as conversations around what folks are doing in the platform and what they'd like to see. So if you have votes for things, we absolutely, our support team keeps track. So if somebody says, hey, I want an integration with this, we'll +1 them. And then once a quarter, the leadership team gets together and votes on, counts the votes and pushes it to the roadmap. So we're always happy to chat that if you have ideas for us. Other questions? I will add one more piece, and that is always, how do you get started with Lifecycle Insights and what does onboarding look like? So I'm putting a link to the pricing page. So if you're interested in trialing, you can go ahead and jump in there and grab the trial while I chat through this. 3 ways to onboard. 1, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, we have a lot of folks that sign up at 11:30 at night, maybe after kids have gone to bed. So we have a checklist right in the platform that'll walk you through all the pieces. The technical setup takes about 20 minutes, right? It's just cutting and pasting API keys from your PSA in. It takes us about 40 minutes to do the cleanup, and we do the warranty lookups again on Dell, Lenovo, HP, Microsoft Surface, Cisco, Meraki, and SmartNet. If you don't want to go through the onboarding checklist, we have a couple options next. One is every Wednesday, we have a group onboarding call. And it's 5 weeks for an hour at 1 on Wednesdays. The first half hour is canned content. And then the second half hour is Q&A that anybody can ask. So this is your group onboarding. We also have those recorded. So that is what you're seeing here. So we've got that recorded if you'd rather listen to those recordings. Some folks listen to it, then come to the actual meeting, do the work as we're talking through it, and then ask questions at the end. And then lastly, we are always open for a one-on-one conversation. So it's free onboarding. You can just ask to have a chat with us, and we will get someone on a call with you to walk your team through it. How do you keep our environment secure? Asking as you have hooks into our world via the PSA. Yes. So we have, we are all about least privilege access. So we will have you set up a security group in your PSA that only gives us access to the pieces that we would need access to. And you could turn on or off any of the pieces if you said, I don't want you to have access to the user list, for example. So when you go into, let me see if I can pull up I'll pull up the ConnectWise integration one. I also have a security doc that I am more than happy to share about our security practices. The developers and I came from the world of ed tech where we had student data. So we are all about security and least privilege access, et cetera. So I'm going to just scroll slowly through here, but you're going to create a security role with limited read-only access. So that is what we're going to access through your API. And you can see we really reduce what we are asking to take a look at so that you can decide. We can write back if you would like us to the warranty and purchase dates. If you don't want us to, you just don't check that button. So you have the control, but this is the access we're aiming to look at. I'll leave it up there, Jason, so you can see what you think about that. Any other questions? That was a good one. All right. Well, then I am super glad everybody joined us for the day. Hope that you are happily doing QBRs for all your clients. We know that from our partners, that they are a huge differentiator for their managed service, company. So reach out, ask questions if you just want to chat QBRs. And if you want to get life cycling, would love to see you in the platform. So thanks so much. And I will be sure to send out this recording. Oh, yeah. Okay. I wanted to make sure I got all the questions. I did. All right. Thanks. Have good ones.